I'm recording this video on Sunday, November 3rd. The Marvels is set to come out in a couple days, and I wanted to make a video because I wanted to address one specific, I wouldn't say it's even a criticism, because this isn't a criticism. I haven't seen the movie yet. I don't know anybody that's seen the movie yet, and people aren't being critical of it. I want to express, I guess, a reaction to a complaint, a common complaint that I hear, and I've heard a lot specifically about the Marvels. Not because I want to protect Disney or something, and not because I have such a really strong feeling about the Marvels themselves. Overall, I'm pretty like, this looks like fun movie, but this is not like Guardians to me, where it is like a movie that I feel like really, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cry at this or something. I feel like we're gonna probably have a good time. That is beside the point. But no, I want to use the Marvels for this example because I have seen many reactions. A lot of people have been talking about like the box office and different reasons why this movie may not be tracking incredibly well. I think there's a lot of different reasons why that's true. I think one of them definitely is that you can't promote the movie, like you can't get the stars out there getting people excited. And some people say like, who watches Jimmy Fallon? I'll say, well, I don't know, but those clips make it onto Instagram. There's stuff like Hot Ones. There's other fun viral stuff that does get out. Like I think that matters, especially in a movie like this, driven by someone like Brie Larson, who has a large fan base, is very popular, regardless of what certain trolls would like you to believe. Iman Vellani, who I think us, especially in the Marvel community, really want to see succeed. I think she 100% deserves to have fun, go on the red carpet, like do interviews, get excited about this. And obviously Teyonah Parris, also a star, also popular, but Park Seo-joon is a big star. And like, I feel like getting them out there would be a really good way to advertise this movie. And Sam Jackson is in this movie. Like there's so many people that are in this movie. That's not the point though. The point is, I think there's a bunch of reasons why this isn't tracking incredibly well. I do think like there is an attitude of like what's happening at Marvel right now. There's so many Marvel hit pieces coming out. And like some seem more legit than others, but overall that is like a sentiment that you've seen expressed, I'm sure. So I understand why people are less interested in getting on board with the Marvel movie right now. But I want to talk about one specific issue that people keep bringing up that I think is wrong. Because like if you don't want to go see the Marvels because you didn't like the Captain Marvel movie, like I think that's fine. I don't think that's like, this isn't me judging you, right? And if you said, if I asked, well, hey, are you going to go see the Marvels? You go, no, I didn't really like Captain Marvel. I go, all right. And if you said, I didn't really like Miss Marvel, it's okay. Even if you said, I hate Brie Larson and I don't want to watch a female-driven superhero movie, this isn't for you because I'm not, trying to convince you. This is more for the person who would say like, you'd say like, hey, do you want to go see the Marvels? And say, I'm actually not really interested in the Marvels. So no, it's not because I don't like Captain Marvel or Brie Larson or anything like that. It's just because like, there's so many things you got to watch to stay up to speed on this, right? It's not just Captain Marvel, the movie. It's also Avengers Endgame. Then on top of that, you have to watch WandaVision and you have to watch Miss Marvel. Otherwise, you're not going to get this. And like, I don't have time to watch all those things. Not all those things are like directed to me, right? Like one of them maybe is directed more children. So I'm not really as interested in that. So I just don't want to invest all that time to watch the Marvels to understand what's going on in this movie. And to that, I would say, well, congratulations, you don't. And this has always been the case, I think. The reason I think this is true is because it seems like the way Marvel's approaching this, and this, shared universe thing, this is not a thing that existed before, not in this capacity, where not only did you have like multiple movies, but you had like these spin-offs and things that were branching off of each other, and characters like Wong would show up in Shang-Chi, and Captain Marvel would show up in Shang-Chi, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy would be in Thor: Love and Thunder. Like this amount of intermingling of characters was not a thing that has happened with long-running franchises like James Bond or Godzilla, probably. I don't know too much about Godzilla. But this is new. And I think Marvel, for that reason, has kind of come up with a playbook and they understand how to do certain things. It seems like a lot of it is based off of comics because these are, comic book characters, and the idea of these team ups, these solo things, and these big Avengers things, that's something that is in comics, right? There are events constantly. Like one that I always come back to, not because I think it's the best one ever, but like War of the Realms, right? Was if all the Thor villains got together and fought the Avengers, and all of the popular characters that were kind of going at that time were the Avengers. So like, I think Blade was very involved, even though like he's not, you wouldn't think of him as like a main Avenger. But all the guys you would expect: Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, probably Wolverine or one of the X-Men. And what happens is there's some sort of disaster in New York or wherever. All of the Avengers have to get involved, and then they team up and try to solve this big problem. These events happen all the time. What I wouldn't expect is for someone to say, hey, have you read War of the Realms? It's pretty good. And then the other person would say, no, actually, because I haven't read the Spider-Man comics that come before this, or the Wolverine comics that come before this, or the Iron Man comics. I understand why people would expect you would need to watch the shows to understand the movies. And I think where we're at right now is that you're going to enjoy it a little bit more if you watch Ms. Marvel. But in terms of having to understand it, what I think people forget is that Marvel has been doing this for a while, this specific thing, right? Making a team-up movie or making a movie in some, long line of continuity that establishes a character, introduces, say, Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok, right? That was something that happened. Or references another movie, maybe a plot device from another movie or something like that. And what I think people kind of forget is Marvel always puts in a lot of work to make sure that if you did not watch all the previous things, you will still be able to enjoy this thing. Right? We all saw Avengers Endgame, right? They had to use the Infinity Stones to stop Thanos and whatever. They had to collect all the Infinity Stones. There was a scene where they all sat down and talked about where they all were, which was basically them going through some of the older movies and going, oh, if you look at it in, Avengers, you had 3 stones in the same place. So we should go get those. You all remember what happened when they had to talk about Thor 2, right? The movie everyone doesn't like, at least back then, the most poorly reviewed Marvel movie. Thor got up and just told us the plot of that movie. Enough for us to know what happened in it, what was important, if you'd never seen it or if you hadn't seen it in a while, right? Like Asgard gets attacked, his mom is killed, the Aether thingy is in Jane, that's what they have to get, and that's where it is right in that moment. That was all the information that Thor gave us. It was also a fun character moment because you saw kind of Thor breaking down, people reacting to him. I think that as a form of exposition is actually very effective. But this idea that you would go into like a movie like Avengers Endgame and the characters would say, all right, we have to get the reality stone. You know where that is, right, Thor? And Thor would say yes, and then they would just move on. Like these movies have always been written so that people who aren't 100% on board can get on board, right? If you think about it, they've done this in the shows quite a few times. She-Hulk introduces Daredevil. Daredevil shows up. What happens immediately? She-Hulk's like, who are you? And he goes, I'm Daredevil. I'm a blind superhero from New York. Have you not heard of me? No, I haven't heard of you. You're a good guy, even though you look like the devil. I know that's weird. Let's move on. Right? Like just something like that. You don't need to know who Daredevil is. You don't need to have watched that show. You just accept that guy. In the same way that in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, when Falcon shows up for the first time, he's like, hey, I'm in the military. My name's Sam Wilson. I have a little jetpack that I can use to fly. We don't need to have seen some sort of solo movie to understand what Sam Wilson's deal was before that. We just accepted him as another character that was brought in, that was introduced. But the idea that they're not going to do this in the Marvels for Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan, I find kind of silly, right? Do you really, we can already see it. They released this scene where Carol goes, hey, Monica, what happened to you? Monica says, I got powers by walking through a witch hex and now I can control the spectrum of light or something. That scene exists. I'm sure Miss Marvel will have a similar scene where someone's like, what are your powers? And she's like, oh, I generate hard light constructs because of a bangle I got from my ancestors that unlocked a mutation. I don't really know how it works, but that's what it is. Right? Like right now I can write 3 of these for future Marvel crossovers where characters meet. Blade meets Elsa Bloodstone and Jack Russell. Blade says, who are you? And she says, I'm Elsa Bloodstone. I'm a legendary monster hunter. And who's he? He's Jack Russell. He's, Blade says, a werewolf. And how did you know? Right? Like that's all that you need. And that's all that like that movie will expect you to know, right? Like Jen shows up in Captain America 4 and Sam goes, oh, I heard about you. You're the Hulk's cousin. We got a blood transfusion and now you have Hulk powers. And I'm a lawyer too. All right. That's it. It's in every one of these. I'm looking at my shelf right now to see if I can figure out another character, like another character who has like an action figure. Like Spider-Man meets America Chavez. Hey, what's your deal? I can travel between the multiverses. I hung out with Doctor Strange for a while, and then I got trained in magic. I punch and stars open up. Cool. That is all we need to know, right? But like Marvel has gotten really good at this. Every movie that introduces a character that we already know, but not from that thing, will have a character ask, what's your deal? And then that person will say 2 sentences that explain their powers and what their deal is, what their history is. Everything you need to know to understand the movie. And then you enjoy it. And the other thing is, people might say, well, sure, that makes sense, but what about Secret Invasion? I didn't watch Secret Invasion, and we have Nick Fury here and the Skrulls. And like, I'm not sure how much people know about this, but in the new Marvel book, the MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards, one of the things you kind of learn is that the Marvel machine that Kevin Feige runs and like quarterbacks is a movie studio where they write a script and they shoot a movie. But what it seems like the superpower of this whole system has become is they're really good at post-production. They're really good at looking back, maybe rewriting scenes, retooling movies or shows, changing certain elements of the plot. And I'm sure, you can look back at a show like, say, Secret Invasion and go like, what? That's why that show is bad. Yeah, but they do it a lot in the good ones and nobody notices, right? Like, this is something that you only notice when it's done poorly. And hey, maybe the first draft of Secret Invasion was even worse than this one, who knows? But like, let's say Secret Invasion, they expect it to be a big hit and they're wrong. It's a huge flop, nobody watches it and nobody likes it. So like, even though nobody watched it when it came out, you also cannot expect people to do like a big rewatch for the Marvels where they rewatch Secret Invasion. Like, that, you just don't want people to do that. Like, if that happens, Kevin Feige is going to take out the stuff from Secret Invasion. Like, any mention of Skrulls and their history and what Nick Fury has been doing, this is going to fit so well into the universe that it'll be like Secret Invasion didn't happen. And I only say he'll take it out because I do think if the writers and actor strikes had been resolved earlier, and, obviously the writer's strike is over, but the actor strike is still going on, which is bizarre to me because it seems like what the actors ask for is very reasonable. And I don't see what, the AMPTP's plan is. It's just like, no, we're not going to have you do movies and we're just all going to let this industry crumble. But like, I think if it wasn't for that, I assume they would just shoot an extra line of dialogue or something where Nick Fury, talks to Captain Marvel and she says, hey, you got a lot of Skrulls working for you. And he says, yeah, I had some problems with the Skrulls on Earth, but now they're all working for me on my space station. Don't worry about it. And we all go, that's a great idea. Let's not worry about it. But now I understand why there are Skrulls. And like, if anybody's like, well, how am I supposed to even know what a Skrull is? Well, they were in the last Captain Marvel movie. So that part I think you can be expected to understand. Same thing with like Monica Rambeau. She's a supporting character from the movie that this is a sequel to. But if you're thinking like Miss Marvel is a show people didn't watch that much, right? It was not as popular as like Loki or Hawkeye or WandaVision. So that's going to be a problem. Like, they're making this movie about this character from this show and people haven't seen this show. Marvel knows if people haven't seen it. They have all of this information. They have so much information. They don't share any of it with us, but they know how many people watched the show, when they turned it off. Like, they get all those reports. And if they see those reports and go, hey, this Captain Marvel sequel we're making with Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau, like the Monica Rambeau part we're not super worried about because people remember her from the last one and WandaVision was very successful. But a lot of people don't know who Miss Marvel is. They'll add a line of dialogue where they explain a thing that they expect you to not know. So this is not me saying that if you didn't want to see the Marvels, you're a bad person. And this isn't even me saying if you thought that thing that I just said, like if you thought, I'm not going to enjoy the Marvels because I haven't seen the other things, like you're lying or something. This is just me saying, like, I see a lot of people saying this and it just isn't really how these usually work. I would be so surprised if we don't get a blurb like that in all of the future Marvel movies, right? Like Brave New World, the new Captain America movie. Like, of course, there will be a scene where Sam will say, hey, Shuri, it's been a while since I saw you. I heard you had some crazy business going on with some sea people or something. Anyway, thanks for the new suit that you guys gave me. Let's go do the thing. But the reason that like this bothers me is because if someone said this about Guardians of the Galaxy 1, it would make about as much sense, right? Captain Marvel 2 has three main characters, right? We got Captain Marvel, we have Spectrum, Monica Rambeau, and we have Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. Then there's like a villain and two seems like really important side characters, Nick Fury and then Prince Yan. So there's five main characters and one villain. That's what Guardians of the Galaxy was, right? We had Gamora, Rocket, Drax, Groot, and Star-Lord. And on the other hand, we had Ronan. And then there were a bunch of other side characters that were pretty important, like Yondu. But if you just look at it like that, you would never go like, I don't want to see Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know who Drax is yet. How am I going to understand this movie if Drax isn't there? Like, you really can't just treat these like they're just their own movie if you expect that the characters will explain their backstories to each other, especially if it's something that they know comes from a show they don't expect everyone to have seen. This is all I'm saying. If you don't want to see the Marvels because you didn't like Captain Marvel, fine. If you didn't like Miss Marvel, fine. If you just don't like the Marvel movies anymore for some reason, that's fine too. But if you don't want to see the Marvels because you don't think you'll understand what Kamala and Monica Rambeau's deals are, I promise you, in this movie they will say it. They always do. It's one of the things they're really good at. It's one of the reasons their expanded universe thing works. This all being said, I still don't know if the Marvels is good. Like, I mean, this is not me saying go see the Marvels either. I have not seen it. I know nothing about it. It looks fun, But like I've seen good trailers before for bad things, and I've seen bad trailers before for good things. Like I like that Echo trailer, but who knows if that's going to be good. That's a whole nother thing. So, this is not an endorsement of that movie or saying you got to go see it if you didn't want to see it before. This is just me saying, if you didn't want to see it because you didn't know what was going on with some of the characters, I promise you, they will explain it. You can watch one of the scenes where they do that right now. Because the MCU is comics now, where you read the big events, because those are the big ones. You watch the Avengers movies, but then you follow the characters that you like. Maybe if you hear another series is really good, you watch that. But then you go back to the Avengers movie, knowing that if something else really important happened in a movie or a series, they will re-explain it to you. Like, that could become a problem in the future. Like, this could be a problem by the time you get to Secret Wars. All these characters will be bumping into each other. Hey, what's your deal? My name's Namor. I was an Atlantean or Talakanil or whatever, and I fought Black Panther. What's your deal? Well, my name is Pepper Potts. I was married to Iron Man, and now I have the rescue armor, and I fly around like Iron Man. Like, that could be a problem, but I think they've managed it well enough that, at least for now, that does not seem like it's a real big deal. So I hope everybody that likes the Marvels, it has fun. I hope it is a good movie we all enjoy. I hope all movies are good. But like, I do hope this is good because I like these Marvels, I like Miss Marvel a lot. I think this character is very fun. It's got a really good future. I know a lot of people like this character. I think for some people, like, maybe they're not as connected to like Kamala Khan anymore. But it's like, I don't know, man. The MCU started 15 years ago. You're much older. I'm not surprised you don't connect very much with the high school character. Not to say that you can't, but it's like, I do think to a certain extent you can have aged out of the MCU in a way that I think is super reasonable. But like, Kamala just as a character really works for me. Captain Marvel, I think, has her moments. Like, sometimes she's not the most interesting character, but I think other times she works pretty well. And then Monica Rambeau was fun for her relatively short appearance. I think there's like a lot of room for her to grow. And overall, this idea of them like switching powers and going to weird planets and stuff seems like a really good movie. Like, I think part of it is they made a fun movie where there are consequences, but there's like an interesting like gimmick involved, and it really is this character focus. Like, these three people are becoming friends and learning about each other through this experience. Like, that's what we always wanted. So I don't know. Seems like it'll be fun. So yeah. Thank you for listening to this rant. Again, you don't have to see the Marvels if you don't want to, but if you didn't want to because you didn't understand stuff, you probably will. That's all I got besides listening to my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking. Subscribe to this channel and follow me on Twitter and all that stuff. I'm Nando V Movies on all those platforms. And also, these are on Nebula now. If you have Nebula and you're like, well, the Nando Cut videos aren't there, they are now. So you can watch them there. So I'll see you here or there or wherever. Bye, everybody.